What's going on, folks? Rob with Oddball ORV. So in the last couple of videos, we've been working on our brakes. We've been installing our disc brake upgrade kit that we have, and so this is the progress so far. We finished this one up last night. I had a little bit of an issue where I forgot to put the wheel studs in, so I had to go back and take it apart and put it back in, but that's all right. And of course, this one over here, this one's all good to go. So at this point, what we're going to start working on is getting these brakes bled. So I'm going to just kind of work through the process on that. I've only done the brakes a couple of times, bled them a couple of times. I did buy a power brake bleeder just to make it a little bit easier, so that's what I'm going to be showing in this video. But yeah, so hopefully this will be a little bit of a shorter video, but you never know with brakes, could take some time. So anyways, sit back, relax, and enjoy, and hopefully you learn something along the way. Okay, so one of the first things we got to do is to bleed the brakes is we need to open up our reservoir here. Now, you want to make sure this is nice and clean. I'm going to grab a paper towel real quick to clean that. Just going to get as much of this, any buildup or anything that might have been here. Moved away. Okay. Now, I have this dash kit here, which means I can't actually get a screwdriver in here, but I found that actually just a smaller Phillips works better. You really want to be careful not to strip these out. So when you put them back in, you know, torque them down, but don't torque them. You can see that turn pretty easy. And this flat-bladed screwdriver works well just because it doesn't round out. These things are notorious for rounding out. So I'm going to set these to the side. There's one. And there's two. So we're just open up our cap. Got that. And then of course we have our boot as well. We want to be very gentle with our boot. Don't want to cause any issues with it. Put all this together. Stick that over there. All right, and I've already rebuilt this brake cylinder, master cylinder, a while ago, so it should be pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my power brake bleeder. It's got a reservoir that goes into there, and then we're going to start bleeding the brakes. So I'm going to pause here and get things set up, and we'll come back. All right, so the brake bleeding kit that I have, it's this Four Uncles one. I got this on Amazon. There's a link to it from the Oddball ORV website if you go there. It's probably like, I don't know, 35, 40 bucks, maybe a little bit more than that, but it's a pretty decent kit. Had lots of great reviews and everything, so that's what I'm going with. I'm just gonna get it out real quick. The kit comes with I don't even know what your reservoir, your vacuum. You plug in your air compressor over here, and what it does is that when you squeeze it, it starts generating a vacuum that starts pulling oil, and pulls excess oil into here, which is nice because then it's all self-contained and everything. It also comes with a reservoir here. This is your refill. You put this up on your master brake cylinder so that as you're pulling liquid through, that you don't go empty. This is always refilling it. It's got a little ball check valve up here that helps out with that. So anyways, I think it's a good kit for the money that you pay for it. You can also do this manually. I've done it manually, but I think this saves a lot of effort, so it's well worth it. All right, so let me get this set up and we'll come back. All right, so this is our reservoir set up. It's got a little screw tip here. You can just thread it. There's a little check valve here. So this is all set up. All I got to do when I start bleeding is actually turn this, and that just keeps the brake fluid going into the reservoir as we pull it out. Over here, on our first brake that we're going to bleed, trying to set this up in a place that you can see it well enough. So down here is where our bleeder valve goes. This is our setup here, if you can see it. Kind of like that. All right. So on the tip of it, this is what goes on here. So we're going to crack this bleeder valve here. It's an 8mm, so we're just going to undo it. All right. And then we're going to stick this rubber boot up and over. All right. And then at this point, what we should be able to do is just start pulling on this. Now I need to crack the my valve over here so that we actually have fluid going in. Okay. Make sure it's not going to overflow. I think that looks good. Sit on my bucket so I can sit on this and watch this thing go. And we're just going to start bleeding some air. So this is going to be a little noisy. Not sure how much I'm going to actually show, but you should actually start seeing fluid pull through here once it starts filling up. Compressor's a little noisy, so at this point you got a little bit of air bubbles. Now while that was bleeding, I should have taken some pictures of it, but what I was doing is I'm over here and I'm squeezing this. This is the right lever, and this controls the front brakes. And of course up there I have my, you can just kind of barely see it, my reservoir being refilled. So I'm going to run this a little bit more. We start to have some fluid coming through. It might be a little hard to see, but there's fluid that's kind of dancing around here. So we'll just keep on working this. The idea is that we want to keep doing this until there's no more bubbles in the brake line. Bubbles are air, air compresses, we don't want any compression. So I'm going to keep this going, and we'll see how this progresses. Alright folks, well, it's probably been about 4+ hours worth of work, maybe 5 hours worth of work on bleeding these brakes since where I last left you off, and I gotta tell you I'm exhausted. So, no brake bleeding shouldn't have taken that long. I was missing a little key piece of information that I finally found out. So let me show you the trick to getting these things bled, so you don't have to spend the 4 or 5 hours like I did. So when I left you off, I was using a power bleeder, this vacuum bleeder here, which I got all set up there on this side, and that was actually, I think over on this wheel is the one I was working on. And since then I've gone back and forth. Let me get this tilted down here. Gone back and forth on how to get these things bled, right? So I had everything set up just like this. Oh, you get the way. That's the orientation of the brake. So this is how I left the video last time. Now, what I did not know is that these units will not bleed in this orientation. You have to take them off, flip them up, stick a piece of metal in the middle. It's about the thickness of your disc brake, like that. And then you're gonna take your little wrench along with your vacuum, or however you're gonna squeeze it, whatever you're gonna do. shoot, I guess I should probably show you guys. Let me get this set up. All right, so you're gonna put this guy on here, like that. And then I have this, I got a couple of different brake bleeding setups. I bought this one today just to give me one other option. This would go on here. Now, here's another thing that I learned, painful lesson. These items here, they're threaded, or not, they're not threaded, they're set up for a wrench, an 8mm wrench, so you can open and close it, right? And you're supposed to be able to just put this right on top and do your bleeding, okay? Well, it took me about 2 hours to figure this out, but actually this isn't enough. And really what you have to do is use the open end version, put this on, crack it, take the open end version off, press this all the way down so that you can, if you can see that, it's all the way on there. Otherwise, what's going to happen, you're going to get air that's bleeding in here and you're never getting any suction. And I went through that for hours and hours and hours and hours, couldn't figure out why I wasn't bleeding, and then by chance I went and pressed this all the way on, and boom, had success. So anyways, I'm gonna cap this here and I'll be right back. All right, so now we got everything set up to bleed. What we do is we just pump this up. Yep. We want to vacuum like that. And then we're gonna go ahead and crack this. Now, I'm not gonna crack it because I already have this bled. I think it's bled pretty good at this point. I just wanted to demonstrate kind of what you gotta do. So you would have this cracked, you'd be pulling a vacuum, and then you can gently squeeze on the brake handle over here on the steering handle. So you can actually get the bubbles out and everything. And if you do the job correctly, then when there's no more bubbles coming out, you're gonna tighten this up and then you should be good. So again, this is already tight. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. That was just the vacuum from what I built up. This, I'm just gonna make sure it's tight. It is. Okay. So at this point, I'm gonna take my little, I put a piece of metal in here. This is about the same thickness as the disc brake, and this is because when this bleeds out, this caliper is gonna move, and you wanna make sure you don't squeeze this so you can't get it back on, right? So now we're gonna flip this back over, and we're gonna put this on. Just like that. And because it's actually bled correctly, we get a little bit of tension, which is fine. I'm gonna go ahead and get my first bolt on. And then get the second one on. So again, I'd spent hours doing this. I didn't have any luck until I flipped this thing upside down and then opened the cap and that got the bubbles out. So I was at the point where I was wondering, oh shoot, maybe my master brake cylinder's bad, or you know, I had rebuilt that not too long ago, so it was a little confusing to me that it would have been bad already, unless I just, when I rebuilt it, I didn't do it correctly. I'm trying to get this one bolt on. You know, that's kind of the interesting thing about doing these videos and stuff is, you know, I'm not an expert on a lot of this stuff. You know, I've always been pretty mechanically inclined, but working on these machines is a new experience for me, and I enjoy it to an extent, except for when things go wrong. And you know, it's quite easy just to show you guys all the easy stuff, right? And to make it look easy and whatnot, you just edit some videos here and there, and boom, magically it looks like it was only took a few minutes to do. But you know, all this stuff takes work, takes time, a lot of frustration here and there, and it's just par for the course when you're working on a 40-year-old machine. Like in this case, I can't get this bolt to go on. Not sure why it doesn't want to go. It's tight. Okay, now if we did our job right, that rotates. It is a little tight, that's fine. Once we get driving and everything, it should be good. And we give it a little squeeze, and it is solid. Oh yeah. Let's go check out the other side. Alright, rotate this. Looks good. Oh yeah, look at that. I just need to tighten up this bolt. Alright guys, so I'm gonna cut this video off here. I'm probably gonna go back and bleed the rear brakes, just because why not? The front seem to be working really good now. Really happy with that. So I'm gonna cut all this together, hopefully making it excuse me. I'm gonna cut all this together, hopefully make it into an interesting video. I know it was long, probably boring. We'll see what comes out of it, but at any rate, we finally got some disc brakes on this thing. Which means that we're going to Dune Fest with some working brakes, which is awesome. I didn't want to go there without working brakes. So stay tuned, guys, and we will catch you guys in the next one.